Thanks for joining us. This is Sage and welcome to the Executive Corner Expert Talks. And today we have with us Mr. Jamie Bone, the top influencer in information and communication technology at SavvySME. And today's expert will share insights on running the information and communications technology side for the Australian online business marketplace that brings the best ideas and tools to its clients. It is a platform empowering business owners to make smarter decisions, attracting more customers and finding the right connections to succeed. And as you know, we bring you the industry leaders, successful business owners, all under the one roof to help you discover the insights of the stock markets. And today we're very lucky to share some space with Mr. Jamie Bone, the top influencer in information and communication technology at SavvySME. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Jamie. It's a pleasure to meet you. And you are a veteran in the telecommunications industry. You've seen it change quite significantly in the last 10 to 20 years. So we're keen to share your insights and your insider's perspective. The world is residing in what we globally call the new normal. Please give your expert opinion on how tech-savvy SMEs can stay competitive in this new normal.
Well, there's an awful lot of things that technology can help in keeping SMEs competitive. You've got low-cost video conferencing and VoIP services to keep workforces connected. You've got digital signage to draw new prospects in to retail spaces. You've got streaming services to provide content for gyms, etc. And look, much as we hate the NBN, it has been a great enabler because now decent bandwidth is reasonably priced. Previously, there was not really a halfway house, so to speak, between the $100 a month ADSL circuit and the $500 a month or more business grade circuit. And had NBN not been around now, remote working would be considerably more difficult.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing those insights. I didn't realise its impact was that great. So good news for us that NBN is around at the time that it was. So COVID-19 has induced disruptions and it has helped change the approach of small businesses towards technology. Technology is now seen as a key enabler for small firms to stay alive. Could you talk us through how technology has transformed the entire paradigm of work culture and how do you envision the future of this newly adapted culture?
Well, video is really sort of into the mainstream now. I mean, it's been around for many, many years. I remember in the 1990s, that seems so long ago now, doesn't it? In the 1990s doing video conferencing equipment, and it was really, really expensive and really complicated, and it just generally wasn't used because of its complexity. So now with the available platforms, the cheap webcams, and again, the bandwidth, it's really easy to use. You're just as likely to do a video call as you are a voice call. And for instance, Medicare now requires doctors to do video consultations or video verifications to get the maximum rebate when claiming certain items. And if they don't get that video confirmation, then they get a lesser rebate off Medicare. And, you know, many of our customers are sort of on their second or third phone system. If we propose something, then it's for expandability. So that means that you can have additional capabilities in the system, even though they're not installed initially. You can simply turn them on with a quick license update, and you've got all this additional functionality. And that's what most of our work over the last 12 to 18 months has been, doing these upgrades to enable the additional functionality in these systems.
Great. Well, it definitely sounds like a full-time job, and I think if you were running a business, you would want to hire a professional technological partner to help you with this side of things, to make sure you're complying, doing it properly, and not cutting any corners. So in this era of transformation and adaptation, Jamie, do you believe that Australian businesses are a bit conservative when it comes to certain changes in the business modules?
I think so, yeah. In my experience, unfortunately, there seems to be an attitude amongst a lot of managers that the less money they spend, the better the manager they are, which can be true up to a point, but you really need to spend money strategically. So if somebody comes to you with a compelling case where spending money will either reduce costs in the long run or will improve efficiency considerably, it might be a good idea to have a look at it anyway and just sort of toss it around and see whether it is going to work for you.
So you would advocate a little bit of trial and error with the new products in technology and communications that are coming through, and often are provided with a free trial period. In your opinion, does spending money up front help businesses to save money in the long run?
Oh, most definitely. We have a number of cases where people are on an older setup, say it was installed anywhere between 5 and 10 years ago, and they sort of say, well, our monthly bill is very high, what can we do about it? And you say, well, okay, there are a number of things that you can do about it, but you're going to have to spend money up front to do it. But generally the payback period could be of the 9 to 12 month range, and that could completely revolutionise what they have. That could be new lines, new phone system, new capabilities, and then they've got a completely new setup, and it may in fact do things that they never even thought of. And you can say, well, it'll do this. Like, you could set up a point-to-point video conference quite easily using your browser, and it's it can be going anywhere in the world basically that you've got internet access, and it's all built into your telephone system.
Yes, it's quite amazing. We've seen some huge transformations in the cloud software domain, especially I think in the last 12 to 18 months. So very interesting, exciting space to watch. And Jamie, while you're with us today, could you please tell us if you think that VoIP phone systems are better than the mobile and landline alternatives?
Well, landlines as such don't really exist anymore now, do they? In the NBN era, the landline is pretty well gone. You do have business lines now that are still, the old TDM type services, PSTN and that, but generally they are voice over IP. We used to joke around a wee bit that when we would convert somebody across to VoIP, we would end up VoIPerizing them. But, mobiles are fine for sole traders, I think, but I think businesses really do need a proper phone system, either on premise or in the cloud, or a combination of two. You could have a private cloud arrangement, and we've implemented a few of those, where you put the phone system in a data center, and then they've got fairly robust links that go out to their various sites. It's very popular for like gyms and things like that. You could have a system in your house. There are a lot of very large houses around, and you could have a telephone system in your house, and you could run your home and business numbers into that, and the phones can ring differently. Different phones can ring. You can have different messages on there and all sorts of things like that. Your mobile can also become an extension, either in parallel with a desk phone or on its own. So in a real estate office, for instance, all your agents that probably spend, a day a week in the office if you're lucky, they don't even really need a desk phone. They could just use their mobiles as the main extension.
Okay, thank you so much for that insight. So if a retailer, if a business was interested in approaching you to find out a bit more about how you could help them, what would they need to bring to you? What if they weren't so savvy with data and analytics? What would you expect them, just for the viewers out there, what would be the minimum amount of data they need to provide to you to get started?
Well, basically what they would like to achieve, what they've got now, and what the issues are with it. Is it the bill? Is it the lack of the ability to connect remote extensions? Generally it's the bill. Or maybe the system is really very old. In some cases we find systems that are old enough to vote, as I say. They're ancient, but they're still chugging away out there. The thing is that they don't really do anything, and when they do fail, which eventually they will, because the accepted life of a phone system is about 8 years. They can go on longer than that, and some of the well-known brands, Panasonic, Samsung, etc., they do go on and on and on, but generally if they break, it's very hard to fix them. And then as a business you have to think, well, okay, we're saving money because we're not getting a new system, but if you're down for, say, 2 or 3 days while parts are found, like good working parts are found to repair your system, is it worth it to you as a business? Or would you like a newer system which has far more functionality and is easier to maintain?
And speaking of functionality, I'd imagine that there are businesses out there who have systems installed, beg your pardon, but they may not be getting the full functionality out of it, and perhaps the business grows and they should be to help streamline their systems. However, in that case, could they approach you and say, we've got this, but it may not be used to the best of its ability, and you'd be able to help them work that out?
Yeah, most definitely. We get cold calls to say, we've got brand X system, and can we get it to do this? And you go in and have a look, and you find that it's been very, very basically set up. And you say, well, look, the amount of licensing that you have in the system, you can do VoIP lines, and if they're just using regular old telephone lines, you can do VoIP lines, you can do VoIP extensions, you could have remote extensions at your subsidiary office, you can do high-end voicemail type capabilities, you can do voicemail to email. All the capabilities are there, they've just never been turned on. So it's just, a fairly nominal charge for 2 or 3 hours or something programming to set all this up for them, and they don't actually have to buy any additional hardware or, any additional licensing.
Well, great. It's great to know that a service like yours is available to help these businesses to really step up to the challenge and use the products that they've bought and get the most out of them. So we have to start winding up the discussion now, Jamie, unfortunately. But before you go, could you share your insights as the world is scaling to become more digitised? How can Australian businesses become greener and more sustainable for the environment and the people, in your opinion, please?
Well, getting back to the older equipment, the power consumption is quite important. Obviously, the older stuff tends to be less efficient, and you could find that you're using electricity unnecessarily. Some of the older equipment basically is a computer, so you've got spinning hard drives, you've got fans, and all sorts of things, and you might be able to replace it with something more up to date, and that has none of those. It's purely solid state, and so your power consumption is reduced there. Something else to consider if you're running voice over IP phones, that you can power them from your network switch. Otherwise, you've got to have little power packs on each phone, and that can be a bit inefficient as well. If you really wanted to get carried away, you could run your office lighting from your network switch as well. So you've got a little bit more control over that. But on the other side of the power consumption is, what do you do with all the waste? And one of the things that we do, and we pride ourselves on, is being tidy. So we will pick up all the boxes, all the plastic, everything else, and take it off-site for recycling as far as possible. And then finally, you've got the case of what do you do with the older equipment. And in some cases, that gets turned over and donated to a charity. So if you've got a charity setting up, then if they need a phone system, something basic is going to do for them, and then maybe as they get more grants or whatever, they can upgrade at some point in the future. But we'll donate a phone system to a charity and simply charge a nominal fee for installing it.
That's fantastic customer service. Yeah, really tying up the loose ends there and keeping it in motion, almost adding to the circular economy. Thank you so much for your time today, Jamie. Your insights were really inspiring. We had a great conversation there.
Thank you.
And viewers, hopefully you enjoyed the inspiring discussion today with Mr. Jamie Bone, the top influencer in information and communication technology at SavvySME, who shared a few pearls of wisdom there, definitely some food for thought. And the full recorded interview will be available on 𝐊𝐼𝐴 Media's YouTube channel fairly soon. And thanks for your time watching. Keep watching 𝐊𝐼𝐴 TV for more of the live updates and expert talks. And as we say, stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐊𝐼𝐴.